Every problem you face in life has one simple cause. You care too much about what others think of you. This concern for others' opinions is the root of your unhappiness. Today, we're diving into the book The Courage to be Disliked, co-written by Japanese philosopher and psychologist Ichiro Kishimi and author Fumitaka Koga. For both, internal worry is always linked to the outside world. They explain, there is no such thing as worry that is completely defined by the individual. So-called internal worry does not exist. Whatever the worry that may arise, the shadows of other people are always present. Kishimi and Koga argue that all of life's problems can be easily solved and that life only seems complex because we make it so. According to them, the only thing you need to find happiness is the courage to be disliked. They explain that one must not fear being disliked. Freedom is being disliked by others. It's not that you lack confidence, you simply lack courage. They also explain that the courage to be happy also includes the courage to be disliked. When you have gained that courage, your interpersonal relationships will all at once change into things of lightness. In this episode, we'll explore the key teachings from the book, including the psychology of unhappiness, why seeking external approval is a dead end, and the author's advice on how to live a truly happy life. Kishimi and Koga's worldview is based on the belief that everyone, no matter their past, has the potential to be happy. The main difference between happy and unhappy people is their willingness to change. The book draws on the theories of psychologist Alfred Adler. Adler believed that the self is a unified whole. Our body, mind, emotions, and both conscious and unconscious thoughts all work together toward a common goal. According to Adler, everything we think, do, or feel is directed toward achieving that goal, even if we're not fully aware of it. Adler's view, goals don't just affect our happiness, they shape who we are. This perspective suggests that the goals we set drive our sense of self. Kishimi and Koga expand on this. They explain that Adler doesn't focus on fixed personality traits, but looks at people through the lens of their lifestyle. For Adler, your habits, emotions, and thoughts make up a lifestyle you chose at some point and continue to choose because you believe it's the best way to reach a goal. For example, Kishimi and Koga would argue that there's no such thing as a truly antisocial person. Instead, they see antisocial behavior as a choice, a way of pursuing certain goals. Kishimi and Koga take this idea further by suggesting that the goals we set not only influence our actions, but also shape our emotions. First, you decide what you want, and then you create the emotions that will help you achieve it. For example, imagine someone wants a job but becomes so anxious about the interview that they can't prepare or even attend. They think that if their anxiety went away, they'd have a better chance at getting the job. However, Kishimi and Koga would argue that the person's true goal is to avoid the interview, so they create the emotion of fear. The person doesn't really want the job. Their true goal is simply to avoid the risk of failing the interview, and fear helps them do that. Kishimi and Koga also address the argument that past trauma can stop people from finding happiness. They counter by saying that not everyone who experiences trauma is stuck in it. For example, while negative childhood experiences may influence your goals, they would argue that it's still up to you to decide what goals to pursue and how to live to achieve them. In the book, they write, "No experience is in itself a cause of our success or failure. We do not suffer from the shock of our experiences, the so-called trauma, but instead, we make out of them whatever suits our purposes. We are not determined by our experiences, but the meaning we give them is self-determining." They also explain that no matter what has occurred in your life up to this point, it should have no bearing at all on how you live from now on. That you, living in the here and now, are the one who determines your own life. So if happiness is within our control, why would anyone choose unhappiness? Kishimi and Koga argue that unhappiness is actually a strategy some people use to reach their goals. As we've explained, the authors believe that the goals we set influence our emotions. They argue that occasional unhappiness is normal because everyone feels disappointed or frustrated at times. However, those who are always unhappy are often driven by one constant, frustrating goal, and this frustrating goal is related to their relationships with others. This is an important point because Kishimi and Koga suggest that your overall happiness depends on the goals you set for your relationships. In other words, What are you trying to achieve in your connections with others? The answer to that question shapes how happy you are. So, your emotions and sense of self are shaped by the goals you set. And the goal that most affects your overall happiness is the one you set for your relationships with others. Kishimi and Koga explain that there are two main goals when interacting with others: seeking their approval or aiming to make a positive impact in their lives. Kishimi and Koga argue that unhappy people often make gaining approval from others their main goal. Unhappy people believe that true happiness comes from being seen as good by others. Whether this approval comes from a teacher, parent, or society, it always leads to the same result: unhappiness. Essentially, unhappy people believe that being liked by others makes them a good person. Many would argue that the desire for approval and seeking validation is a natural part of being human. However, Kishimi and Koga explain that this is a mistaken view. They explain that humans don't seek approval to find happiness. We find happiness in approval because it satisfies a deeper need within us. So why is it that people seek recognition from others? For Kishimi and Koga, in many cases, it is due to the influence of reward and punishment education. Kishimi and Koga point out that even when unhappy people manage to gain the approval of others, it comes with a heavy price. In their pursuit of validation, they end up living according to someone else's expectations. In doing so, they end up sacrificing their freedom and ultimately their happiness. They explain, to live one's life trying to gauge other people's feelings and being worried about how they look at you, to live in such a way that others' wishes are granted. There may indeed be signposts to guide you this way, but it is a very unfree way to live. Now, why are you choosing such an unfree way to live? You are using the term desire for recognition, but what you are really saying is that you don't want to be disliked by anyone. Unless one is unconcerned by other people's judgments, has no fear of being disliked by other people, and pays the cost that one might never be recognized, one will never be able to follow through in one's own way of living. That is to say, one will not be able to be free. The key takeaway from this book is that no matter what you do, it's inevitable that some people won't like you. Therefore, the only way to find lasting happiness is to accept this reality and have the courage to live a life you believe is good, regardless of other people's opinions. This is why it's crucial to let go of the need for approval and develop the courage to be disliked. The fear of being disliked. Most people suffer not because of external circumstances, but because they fear being disliked. The courage to be disliked argues that this fear holds us back from true freedom. Freedom is being disliked by others. We are conditioned from childhood to seek approval, first from parents, then from teachers, then from society. But when we prioritize others' opinions over our own desires, we trap ourselves in a cycle of self-doubt and anxiety. A painter might abandon their unique style to please critics. A student might choose a respectable career path instead of what they love. In both cases, they trade personal fulfillment for external validation. Alfred Adler's psychology suggests that true happiness comes when we stop seeking approval and focus instead on living by our own values. The lies we tell ourselves. We often blame our unhappiness on circumstances, but according to Adler, we create our own limitations. You are not controlled by your past experiences. It is you who decides the meaning of your past. A person who avoids social interactions may claim it's because of anxiety, but in Adlerian terms, their deeper goal is avoiding rejection. The anxiety is not the cause, it is the effect of their chosen goal. This perspective challenges the victim mindset. If we accept that we are responsible for our own lives, then we must also accept that we have the power to change them. Escaping the approval trap. The need for validation is one of the greatest obstacles to happiness. We constantly ask, what do people think of me? But a more important question is, how can I contribute to others? To live one's life trying to gauge other people's feelings and being worried about how they look at you, to live in such a way that others' wishes are granted, is a very unfree way to live. Mother Teresa was criticized by many, yet she continued her work. She understood that the goal was not to be liked, but to serve a higher purpose. Life is not a competition. Many people believe they must compete to prove their worth. This mindset breeds insecurity and jealousy. Once one is released from the scheme of competition, the need to triumph over someone disappears. True happiness comes from self-acceptance. Instead of measuring yourself against others, focus on your own progress. The only person you should compete with is who you were yesterday. The courage to be yourself. Happiness is not something you receive, it is something you choose. People often delay happiness, thinking they will be content when they achieve something. But fulfillment does not come from external success. It comes from living in alignment with your values. No matter what you do, there will always be people who dislike you. That is why you must have the courage to be disliked. Accept that not everyone will approve of you, and stop living for their validation. Only then can you be truly free. Breaking free from the chains of recognition. The desire to be liked is deeply ingrained in human nature. Since childhood, we have been rewarded for pleasing others, earning praise for good behavior, achieving high grades, or following societal expectations. Over time, we internalize the belief that our worth depends on external approval. But this mindset leads to an unfree life. Unless one is unconcerned by other people's judgments, has no fear of being disliked, and pays the cost that one might never be recognized, one will never be able to follow through in one's own way of living. Consider Vincent van Gogh. In his lifetime, he sold only one painting. He was mocked, dismissed, and even considered mentally unstable. But he did not paint for approval. He painted because he had to. Today, his art is celebrated worldwide, but had he sought validation, he might have abandoned his craft. Many people hold themselves back, afraid that taking a risk will lead to rejection. But rejection is inevitable. The sooner you accept this, the freer you become. The danger of living for others. When we live for approval, we sacrifice our own desires. We shape our behavior around what others expect, not what we truly want. Over time, this leads to resentment toward ourselves and those we try to please. To live in such a way that others' wishes are granted, there may indeed be signposts to guide you this way, but it is a very unfree way to live. Imagine a lawyer who always wanted to be a musician but stayed in their profession because of parental expectations. They might achieve financial success, but inside, they feel empty. No amount of praise or status can replace the regret of betraying one's true self. This is why the courage to be disliked insists that we must be willing to disappoint others. This doesn't mean being selfish or unkind. It means valuing our own path over the expectations imposed upon us. Freedom lies in contribution, not approval. The alternative to seeking approval is finding fulfillment in contribution. Happy people do not chase recognition, they focus on being useful. They help others not because they should, but because it brings them joy. If one really has a feeling of contribution, one will no longer have any need for recognition from others. Think of people who volunteer at shelters, teach underprivileged children, or care for loved ones. Their happiness comes not from being admired, but from knowing they have made a difference. When you shift your mindset from, "How can I be liked?" to "How can I contribute?" you free yourself from the prison of external validation. The power of self-acceptance. At the core of true happiness is self-acceptance. Instead of trying to become the person others want you to be, you must embrace who you already are. A person obsessed with the desire for recognition does not have any community feeling yet and has not managed to engage in self-acceptance. This means accepting your flaws, your past mistakes, and your imperfections. It means understanding that your worth is not tied to achievement, beauty, or status. It exists simply because you exist. Once you stop seeking approval, once you recognize that your presence alone has value, you will experience a deep, unshakable sense of freedom. Redefining success, living on your own terms. In a world obsessed with status and recognition, success is often measured by external achievements, wealth, fame, or approval from peers. But true success is not about meeting society's expectations. It's about living in alignment with your values. The key takeaway from this book is that no matter what you do, it's inevitable that some people won't like you. Therefore, the only way to find lasting happiness is to accept this reality and have the courage to live a life you believe is good, regardless of other people's opinions. Consider the story of Henry David Thoreau. He left society to live in a small cabin near Walden Pond, rejecting conventional measures of success. While others saw his lifestyle as strange, he found peace and fulfillment. His experiment in self-reliance became one of the most influential philosophies in history, proving that success is subjective. It is defined by the individual, not society. You don't need to abandon civilization to live freely, but you do need to define success for yourself. Ask, what truly matters to me? What kind of life would bring me meaning, regardless of what others think? The moment you prioritize your own definition of success, you reclaim your life. Letting go of the fear of being misunderstood. One of the greatest fears that hold people back is the fear of being misunderstood. Many hesitate to express their true opinions, passions, or ambitions because they worry about being judged. But every great thinker, artist, and innovator has faced criticism. Being praised essentially means that one is receiving judgment from another person as good, and the measure of what is good or bad about that act is that person's yardstick. Socrates was condemned to death for challenging societal norms. Galileo was ostracized for his discoveries about the universe. Frida Kahlo was criticized for her unconventional art and lifestyle. Yet they all remained true to themselves. The reality is that not everyone will understand you, and that's okay. Your purpose is not to convince others of your worth, but to live in a way that feels right to you. Those who resonate with your authenticity will find you. Those who don't were never meant to. The strength to walk alone. The road to self-acceptance is not always easy. Choosing to live for yourself rather than for others' approval can feel lonely at times, but it is in solitude that true strength is forged. Unless one is unconcerned by other people's judgments, has no fear of being disliked, and pays the cost that one might never be recognized, one will never be able to follow through in one's own way of living. Think of the times when you've acted against your own desires just to fit in. Did it make you truly happy? Or did it leave you feeling hollow? The discomfort of standing alone is temporary, but the regret of betraying yourself lasts a lifetime. When you embrace the courage to be disliked, you no longer seek validation. You become your own source of approval, and in doing so, you attract people who respect and appreciate the real you, not a version of yourself crafted for acceptance. The freedom of being you. At the heart of the courage to be disliked is a powerful truth. Happiness is a choice, not a destination. It is not something that others give you. It is something you create by living authentically. By letting go of the need for approval, redefining success on your own terms, and accepting that not everyone will understand you, you free yourself from the invisible chains that keep so many people trapped in lives they don't truly want. The path to true fulfillment is not paved with praise, it is paved with courage. The courage to think for yourself, the courage to live by your own principles, the courage to be disliked. How to disappear and transform yourself. The more you open your life up for display, the more people find a way to drag you down. It's a natural sociological phenomenon. There's something powerful about disappearing and working in the shadows. Becoming unavailable and committing to become the next version of you in secret can be exhilarating, exciting because you know that when you reappear, your transformation will shock the world. Funny thing is, when you do, you won't care because you'll learn in the shadows that the only opinion that matters is yours. Let's get into how to do this the right way. I'm going to break it down into 3 key parts for you. First is how to disappear. Second is what to do in the shadows. And third is how to reappear. And if you mess up any part of this, especially the last, you're going to regret it. Let's get it. Now, how do we disappear the right way? 1. Shut your mouth. Your mouth betrays you much more than you know. You need to get it under control. You will no longer speak openly about your life to anyone else. This includes your family, your friends, your coworkers, no one. The only exception is your life partner, and that's if you know that they want you to succeed and crush it. I really hope the answer is yes. You will have trouble controlling your mouth. It's going to take time. The natural habit we have is to just spill information. It's coded into us for the survival of the species. We need to fight that. To really disappear properly, you will need to learn to catch thoughts before they leave your mouth. Become a mystery to everyone, and then you will be able to move in the shadows. 2. Only care what you think. Everyone else doesn't matter anymore. To disappear and stay hidden, you will have to reprogram your mind. You have to not care what others think. First of all, they don't care about you. But the problem is, you think they care about you, and that dictates a lot of your actions. You need to kill that side of you that cares what others think. What you have to do is create a person in your mind. That person is you, and you have to obsess about what that person thinks about you. That's the only opinion that matters. Would you be proud of you? Would you be happy about what you did? We're so driven by what others think, you have to cheat the system, make you the other person. Through this process, you will be less a puppet of others and more in control of your own life. This is not an easy task. It takes practice and repetition. Share in the comments if you've been able to figure this trick out and explain how. 3. Hide your plans. You'll develop some ambitious plans in this journey. You'll get excited. You want to share your plans with those around you. Don't you dare. Keep those plans close to your chest, like they are the passwords to your treasure. A healthy way to think about it is to imagine that every part of your plan that leaks out reduces your chances of accomplishing it by 5%. Every time you speak about your plans and show them openly to people, you are hurting yourself. You are satisfying others and hurting yourself. Stop being so careless and be surgically intentional. If you need to get advice or benefit from someone's expertise, then do so with precision and focused intent. Find the exact right person. Reveal only the bare minimum. Obtain the knowledge you need and disappear again. 4. Hide your progress. Progress will come. It may take some time, but it will arrive, and you'll notice that progress is more easily had when you disappear. But don't let anyone see it. Don't show off your improved physique. Don't show off your improved wealth. Don't show off your new skills. Just focus on progressing even more. Disappearing is only worth it if it gets you through the entire transformation. Going back to your old ways mid-transformation will probably reverse all of the progress you've made, and you'll be back at square one. You will feel the natural urge to share about the changes you are seeing in your life. You will have to flex your willpower and keep things boxed in. Use that energy to pour more fuel into your efforts. Recycling that energy can help get you to the next level in your journey. And we are all about life level ups on this channel. So like and subscribe to stay included in the discovery and discussion. Hide your tears, blood, failures, going ghost mode, monk mode, or whatever, basically crushing it in the shadows, is going to be tough. You're going to be physically hurt, be mentally fatigued, and you may bleed or cry after facing obstacle after obstacle that stands between you and progress. What would be your instinct at each wall? Maybe go complain about it to a close friend, or go receive some words of comfort from your family. You'll need to shut the metaphorical pie hole and bleed, sweat, and cry all by your lonesome. Scream into the wind. Let those tears flow from your face. Patch up your wounds with a first aid kit. But do it yourself. Do it in the shadows, and let it build your strength and character. Let each moment of rock bottom be the moment that catapults you to another level of performance. It's in those moments of pain that a new you emerges. Embrace that pain, and go as far as looking forward to it. True beast mode, and now we're ready to transform. 1. Pick your targets. What are you going to transform? It's simple. To become something through this process, you need to know what that something is. Be specific about this. What is it that you want to build? Want to be absolutely jacked and unrecognizable? Want to have a money-printing business? Whatever it is, be very clear on what you want to accomplish. Write it down. Put it up in places that you can see it. But remember, no one else can see it. 2. Revolve your life around crushing it. Every waking hour should be planned to drive toward your goals. Be obsessed. You need the mentality that this is your one chance in life. Dedicate every breath to it. Everything that you do should be intentional and should aid you in crushing it. Move to an apartment close to the gym. Join a class that teaches you the exact skills you need. Time box your day so that you're spending at least a few hours each day working on your transformation. Dedicate a day to tracking your progress, updating your plan, and breaking down big goals into smaller, manageable goals. Do whatever it takes. 3. Reprogram your mind. Happiness is crushing it. You're going to have to love this disappearing act. You will have to love crushing it in the shadows. At first, it will feel strange, but eventually, You will enjoy the pain and not being seen. This requires a shift in your thinking, a reprogramming of your mind. It is part of your positive transformation. So embrace it. And here's the interesting part. After you've accomplished your transformation, you won't need to reappear. You won't care to reappear because you will have become one with the shadows. You will have found a new life that you enjoy far more than what you had before.